This year your performance was good, excellent and outstanding. So, your rating is average.
What? How come average?
Because you lack domain knowledge.
But last year you said I am a domain expert and you put me in this project as a domain consultant.
Oh. Is it? Well, in that case, I think your domain knowledge has eroded this year.
What?
Yes, I didn't see you sharing knowledge on purchasing domain.
Why would I? Because I am not in purchasing, I am in manufacturing.
This is what I don't like about you. You give excuse for everything. Next, you need to improve your communication skills.
Like what? I am the one who trained the team on business communication. You sat in the audience and took notes. You remember?
Well, I mean, you need to improve your social pragmatic affirmative communication.
What the hell is that?
See, that's why you need to learn about it. Next, you need to sharpen your recruiting skills. All the guys you recruited left within 2 months.
Well, not my mistake. You told them you will sit beside them and review their code personally, and most resigned the next day itself. Couple of them even attempted suicide.
Anyway, I tried to give you a better rating, but our normalization process gave you only average.
Last year that process gave me excellent. This year just average. Why is this process pushing me up and down every year?
That's a complicated process. You don't want to hear.
I'll try to understand. Go ahead.
Well, we managers gather in a large room, write down the names of subordinates in small bits of paper and throw them up in the air. Whichever lands on the floor gets average. Whichever lands on table gets good. Whichever we manage to catch gets excellent. And whichever gets stuck to the ceiling gets outstanding.
This is ridiculous. So who gets poor rating?
Good question. Those are the ones we forget to write down.
What the? And how can paper bits stick to the ceiling for outstanding?
Oh no. Now you have started questioning our 20-year-old organizational process.
Hello and welcome to the Performance and Career Management class. As you can see in the video that they were talking about the performance appraisals, and they were talking about gathering performance information. So that's what we are going to discuss today. So as far as the performance information is concerned, or performance appraisal is concerned, as you have already read about the first chapter, in the first chapter we have discussed there about the performance management process that includes several stages. That includes prerequisites, that includes performance planning, then we discussed performance execution, then performance assessment, then performance review, and performance renewal and contracting. But the important component of performance assessment stage is the use of performance appraisals. In the first chapter we also discussed that there is a difference between performance management and performance appraisals, and most of the times we think that performance management is actually performance appraisals. But in the first chapter we discussed that though performance appraisals are considered to be one of the most important part, but performance management is quite different from performance appraisals. Performance appraisals comes under the umbrella of performance management. So this chapter provides a comprehensive description of the use of appraisal forms and their content, and in addition to that, this chapter describes other issues related to the administration of performance appraisals, like how often the supervisor and subordinate should meet to discuss performance issues, and how to choose the source of performance data, for example supervisors, subordinates, peers, or customers. And in the last, this chapter concludes with a discussion of reasons why the raters are likely, either intentionally or unintentionally, to distort performance ratings, and what can be done to improve the accuracy of the ratings. So if we discuss about the overview, you can see that it includes performance appraisal forms. Then we will discuss about the characteristics of appraisal forms. Then we will discuss about determining overall rating, and then in the last we are going to discuss about the appraisal period and number of meetings. Then we are going to discuss about who should provide performance information, and then we will discuss about a model of rater motivation, and in the last we are going to discuss about the preventing rating distortion through rated training programs. So let's discuss one by one. First comes the performance appraisal forms. So okay ji, so let's discuss about performance appraisal forms. There are basically 9 major components of performance appraisal form. The very first one is basic employee information. That is basically that basically includes information like job title, division, department, and other work group information, employee number, and pay grade or salary classification. And in addition to that, forms usually include the dates of the evaluation period, the number of months and years the rater has supervised or worked with the employee, and employee's starting date with the company and starting date in the current job, the reason for the appraisal, the current salary and position in range, and the date of next scheduled evaluation. So it basically includes that. And then the second part is are the signatures. These are necessary, whether it includes the signatures of the employee or its head of department or the HR office, or you can say it includes the director or the overall CEO of that company. So it includes the required signatures, which shows that these employees or these personnel have reviewed the whole form of an individual employee or of a department. So these signatures are also necessary for that. Then it includes accountabilities, objectives, and standards. If the organization adopts a results approach, this section of the form would include the name and description of each accountability, objectives agreed upon by the manager and employee, and the extent to which objectives have been achieved. In many instances, the objectives are weighted in terms of importance, which facilitates the calculation of an overall performance score. And finally, this section can also include a subsection describing conditions under which performance was achieved, which many help explain why the employee achieved the high or low performance level described. Here, if we can take an example of a supervisor that may have the opportunity to describe specific circumstances surrounding performance during the review period, including a tough economy, the introduction of the new line of products, and so forth. Then it comes competencies and indicators. Here, if the organization adopts a behavior approach, this section of the form includes a definition of various competencies to be assessed together with the behavioral indicators. The fifth one is the major achievements and contributions. Here some forms include a section in which a rater is asked to list the 2 or 3 major accomplishments of the individual being rated during the review period. These could also refer to results, behaviors, or both the things. Then it comes the stakeholder input. Here some forms include sections to be filled out by the other stakeholders such as customers with whom the employees interact. Overall, stakeholders are defined as people who have first-hand knowledge of or are affected by the employee's performance. Now, in most of the cases, input from the other stakeholders is collected from them by using forms separate from the main appraisal, because not all the sources of performance information are in the position to rate the same performance dimension. Now, if while taking in an example, an employee may be rated on the competency, teamwork by peers, or on the competency reliability by the customer. A more detailed discussion of the use of various sources of performance information is offered later in the chapter. Then it comes employee comments. Now this section includes reactions and comments provided by the employee being rated, and in addition to allowing formal employee input which improves the perceived fairness of the system, the inclusion of this section helps with legal issues because it documents that the employee has had an opportunity to participate in the evaluation process. Then there are developmental achievements. As far as developmental achievements are concerned, this section of the form includes information about the extent to which developmental goals set for the review period have been achieved. It includes a summary of activities such as workshops attended and courses taken, as well as results such as new skills learned. If we have an evidence of having learned new skills can be documented, for example by obtaining a professional certification. Now, although some organizations include developmental achievements in the appraisal forms, others choose to include them in a separate form. For example, if we take an example of Sun Microsystems, so they basically separate these forms, and some organizations do not include development content as part of the performance appraisal form because it is often difficult for the employees to focus constructively on development if they have received a less than ideal performance review. Then there comes developmental needs, plans, and goals. So this section of the form is future oriented and includes information about specific goals and timetables in terms of employee development. As noted before, some organizations choose to create a separate development form and do not include this information as the part of performance appraisal form.